13th with Mike Zane. Good morning. Today is celebrated by Christians around the world as Epiphany, also called Little Christmas and Three Kings Day. Parenthetically, it is also the first day of the parade season in New Orleans leading up to Mardi Gras. They take their religion very seriously down there. Epiphany marks the revelation of Christ to the Gentiles. In the wider view, it can also be seen as the advent of a radical new idea that humankind can be redeemed by the power of love. In that spirit, let us begin the new year together. My name is Ben Soul, and I am one of the worship associates here at First Parish in Lexington. We extend a special welcome to newcomers this morning. If you wish to learn more about our church, please join us for refreshments in the parish hall after the service through either one of these doors, and visit the welcome kiosk there. And if you have an infant or toddler with you today, please know that you are welcome to take advantage of childcare downstairs. Now, please take a moment to put your cell phones on worship mode and to greet those sitting around you.
Announcements after this.
Oh, shoot. Yes, I missed that. All right. I neglected to mention a few important announcements. The first is an announcement about there is still time to register for a 4-week course called Since What We Choose, a course on ethics. It is being offered by Reverend Ann Mason, which will be given on 4 Thursdays, January 17th through February 7th, in the afternoon or the evening. For more information and to register, please go online to you better look this up in your order of service. Another announcement from the Voices on the Green team. It is no secret and it's no lie. Tickets go on sale today for the next Voices on the Green. And that's our theme, Secrets and Lies. Come hear parishioners and other Lexingtonians reveal stories of secrets and lives in their personal and professional lives. Among the featured truth tellers from our own church, Suzanne Adams, Len Morse-Fortier, Brian Herrick, and the Reverend Ann Mason. But we have both church and state representative Jim Shaw, the head of the Chamber of Commerce, and Eric Butler, local executive, will be featured as well. And the musical numbers for the evening will be performed by our own truth singer, Beth Walsh. Special program on secrets and lies for children as well. Now let us deepen into worship with the musical introit.
Good morning. It is a great day to be here with you. And as we enter into this sacred space, I'd like to share this reading by my colleague Gretchen Haley. What's going to happen? Will everything be okay? What can I do? In these days, we find ourselves too often stuck with those questions on repeat. What's going to happen? Will everything be okay? What can I do? We grasp at signs and markers, articles of news and analysis, Facebook memes and forwarded emails, as if the new zodiac capable of forecasting all that life may yet bring our way, as if we could prepare, as if life had ever made any promises of making sense or turning out the way we thought, as if we are not also actors in this still unfolding story. For this hour, we gather to surrender to the mystery, to release ourselves from the needing to know, the yearning to have it already figured out, and also the burden of believing we either have all the control or none. Here in our song and our silence, our stories and our sharing, we make space for a new breath, a new healing, a new possibility to take root. That is courage forged in the fire of our coming together and felt in the spirit that comes alive in this act of faith, that we believe still a new world is possible, that we are creating it already, here and now. Come, let us worship together. Please rise as you are able and join in singing hymn number 57, All Beautiful the March of Days.
Lisa Maria will light our chalice. We light our chalice this morning in the spirit of a new beginning. Let us open ourselves to new possibilities and new perspectives. And let us forget that joy can be found even in the darkest of times. Let us sing together one verse of one of our well-known hymns, There Is More Love Somewhere. I will sing it first, and please join me the second time. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. somewhere. Let's sing together. There is more joy. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. All right, everybody's awake now. Good. I'm so happy to be sharing a story with you all today. Story is a folk tale from many different traditions across the world, and the version I share with you today is from the UUA's Tapestry of Faith. There was once a very wealthy king who owned many beautiful things. He had cloth tapestries, piles of gold, and statues made by the very best sculptors. Of all of his belongings, his very favorite possession was the most glorious diamond that you can imagine. It was huge, as big around as his hand, and it was pure, clear, and flawless, without any marks or blemishes. He loved to go and sit with the diamond, gazing at its beauty and its perfection. One day, when the king went to look at his diamond, he discovered to his horror that it had a long, deep scratch. He couldn't believe his eyes. Whatever could have happened to his flawless diamond, his beautiful, perfect diamond? So immediately he sent for all the best stone cutters and diamond cutters in the kingdom. One by one, they came to inspect the diamond, and they each looked closely and then sadly said, "I'm sorry, King, the scratch, it is too deep. If we polish it, it will break into 1,000,000 pieces." Finally, one last diamond carver came before the king. She looked at the diamond closely, gazing at it from every angle. And the king watched with bated breath, and as the diamond carver turned it over and over, looking at it, suddenly the diamond carver's face broke into a big smile. "I know how to fix this, Your Majesty," she exclaimed. "Leave it to me. In 2 weeks' time, I will return your diamond to you better than ever. However, you may not visit me until this time is up or check on my progress. You must wait until it is finished." Well, the king was excited. Soon his flawless diamond would be flawless again and back with all of his lovely, perfect things with no scratch. It took all the king's willpower to resist the temptation to visit the diamond carver and watch her work. As for the diamond carver, day by day, night after night, she brought her tools to fix that diamond, and bit by bit by bit, she worked on that scratch, and it was slow, and it was tedious, but she knew she had to work carefully, or the diamond would crack and shatter into 1,000,000 pieces. Finally, the diamond cutter was finished. Carefully, she wrapped the diamond in cloth to protect it and brought it before the king. "Here it is, Your Majesty." And with a flourish, she opened the cloth and presented the diamond. And the king gasped at what he saw. Where there had once been a scratch, a horrible flaw in his precious diamond, there was now an exquisite, beautiful flower carved into the diamond. Unable to polish the scratch out of the diamond carver had instead turned the flaw into something beautiful. The king loved his diamond more than ever, and when he went to hold it in his hands and gaze upon it, he was reminded of the possibility that is in a flaw, that you can see possibility in anything and turn imperfections into things of beauty. I thank you all for listening. I invite our primary class to depart for their class.
As we enter into our time of meditation prayer, I'd like to lift up a few pastoral concerns that I have for members of our congregation. Marjorie Nichols is with us this morning, and the memorial for her husband, John, will be next Saturday at 2 o'clock. Please come and support Marjorie and her family. I'd also like to lift up Jane Beswick, whose husband Joel has had a fall and is in rehab. And so we lift up Joel Max and Jane and hold them in our hearts in this time. We know that there are people in our world who are suffering, and we carry that with us today. At the end of this service, if you'd like to go to the rear of the sanctuary and light a candle of joy or of sorrow for what you carry, for you, or in honor of those that for whom you are concerned, you are invited to do so. I'd like to share a blessing by one of my favorite writers, John O'Donohue. This is a blessing for a new beginning. In out-of-the-way places of the heart, where your thoughts never think to wander, this beginning has been quietly forming, waiting until you were ready to emerge. For a long time it has watched your desire, feeling the emptiness grow inside you, noticing how you willed yourself on, still unable to leave what you had outgrown. It watched you play with the seduction of safety and the gray promises that sameness whispered, heard the waves of turmoil rise and relent, wondered, would you always live like this? Then the delight when your courage kindled, and out you stepped onto new ground, your eyes young again with energy and dream, a path of plenitude opening before you. Though your destination is not clear, you can trust the promise of this opening. Unfurl yourself into the grace of beginning that is one with your life's desire. Awaken your spirit to adventure. Hold nothing back. Learn to find ease in risk. Soon you will be home in a new rhythm, for your soul senses the world that awaits you. Let us rest in the silence that we make together.
Our reading this morning is the poem V'ahavta. The poet, Aurora Levins Morales, is an indigenous Puerto Rican Jew. And the poet she quotes from in the poem is Roque Dalton, a poet from El Salvador who was executed in 1975. Say these words when you lie down and when you rise up, when you go out and when you return, in times of mourning and in times of joy. Inscribe them on your doorposts, embroider them on your garments, tattoo them on your shoulders, teach them to your children, your neighbors, your enemies. Recite them in your sleep, here in the cruel shadow of empire. Another world is possible. Thus spoke the prophet Roque Dalton. Altogether, they have more death than we, but altogether, we have more life than they. There is more bloody death in their hands than we could ever wield unless we lay down our souls to become them, and then we lose everything. So, instead, imagine winning. This is your sacred task. This is your power. Imagine every detail of winning, the exact smell of the summer streets in which no one has been shot, the muscles you have never unclenched from worry, gone soft as newborn skin, the sparkling taste of food when we knew that no one on earth is hungry, that the beggars are fed, that the old man under the bridge and the woman wrapping herself in thin sheets in the back seat of a car, and the children who suck on stones nest under a flock of roofs that keep multiplying their shelter. Lean with all your being towards that day when the poor of the world shake down a rain of good fortune out of the heavy clouds, and justice rolls down like waters. Defend the world in which we win as if it were your child. It is your child. Defend it as if it were your lover. It is your lover. When you inhale and when you exhale, breathe the possibility of another world into the 37.2 trillion cells of your body until it shines with hope. Then imagine more. Imagine war is a scarcely credible rumor that the crimes of our age, the grotesque inhumanities of greed, the sheer and astounding shamelessness of it, vast fortunes made by stealing lives, the horrible normalcy it came to have is unimaginable to our heirs, the generations of the free. Don't waver. Don't let despair sink its sharp teeth into the throat with which you sing. Escalate your dreams. Make them burn so fiercely that you can follow them down any dark alleyway of history and not lose your way. Make them burn clear as a starry drinking gourd over the grim fog of exhaustion, and keep walking. Hold hands, share water, keep imagining, so that we and the children of our children's children may live. Our next hymn, Bells in the High Tower, number 56 in the gray hymnal.
Bells in the high tower, ringing on our
So I'd like to take a quick poll. When you go out to eat, do you choose to go to the same restaurant over and over because you know exactly what you want to eat and you love the anticipation of being able to eat that special food? Raise your hand if that's you. Okay. Or are you the kind who picks a new restaurant every time, who sits with the menu thinking about every single choice, pondering the interplay of ingredients, the perfect wine complement, excited to choose from the many possibilities before you? Okay. Well, here's an even harder question. How many couples here have one person who wants the same restaurant and the other who wants the variety? Aha. As you work this through, know that my door is open anytime, okay? Why do we so love the tantalizing ideas of possibility? There are so many times in a year when the possibility of what may come seems to feel more present. After celebrating the darkness of the year, when we spent time resting in the dark, nourishing and welcoming the dimming lights, and the quiet which comes with a deepening space around us, we notice now that the light is beginning to shift. The dawn comes just a little bit earlier, the dusk settles in a little bit later. And I don't know about you, but my spirits seem to lift with every extra minute of daylight that I get. Yeah. Possibility. Even the word itself seems to open up realms of the unknown. Possibility. I don't know about you, but I grew up relishing these words, to boldly go where no one has gone before. Yeah? How exciting that NASA's dreaming has come true as the New Horizons spacecraft has reached Ultima Thule. When we are young, possibility is what gets us up in the morning. Will we make new friends? Will we pass that math test? Will we find a job, even a career? Will we get into the school that we hope for? Will I pass that audition, find my true love, make meaning in my life? The questions are endless, and the possibilities even more so. But as we grow older, doesn't it become more difficult to float so many possibilities? We settle into our routines. We have expectations from our jobs, from our kids, from our habits. It seems like we have more to lose, and therefore the risk that comes with growth seems to be so much more challenging for us personally as we get older. The call to become our true and authentic selves is a lifelong process. We don't stop growing just because we're getting older. For most of us, the challenge is to wade through the possibilities to find the one thing that we are truly called to be. In my early 20s, I experienced that the career I thought I wanted was simply not possible for me. And when that realization hit, I was, frankly, immobilized for quite some time. I'm sure that some of you have gone through periods like this as well. For many years, I felt like I tried on different career paths the way I try on different outfits to find the one that seemed right in this moment and then change it when the requirements shift. It has taken me a lifetime to grow into becoming a minister, and that lifetime has been filled with the risk of growth. And sometimes I've had to find a way to deal with the fear that comes with growth, both for me and for my spouse and for the congregations with whom I've worked. Comedian Jim Carrey speaks about fear in connection with his father. He says, "My father could have been a great comedian, but he didn't believe that that was possible for him. And so he made a conservative choice instead. He got a safe job as an accountant. And when I was 12 years old, he was let go from that safe job. And our family had to do whatever we could to survive." Hearing the call of one's true purpose is hard because it shakes us to the core. It becomes a fearful moment when it's clear that the life I'm living is not the life that wants to live in me. Society defines a success path that goes one way, but you sense that you must go another way and follow the different drumbeat of your own heart. But then, what is that mysterious way, and how to discern it? Jim Carrey says, "I've learned many great lessons from my father, not the least of which was that you can fail at what you don't want, so you might as well take a chance on doing what you love." Fear is going to be a player in your life, he says, but you get to decide how much. You can spend your whole life imagining ghosts, worrying about your pathway to the future, but all there will ever be is what's happening here and the decisions we make in the moment, which are based in either love or fear. Your job, Jim Carrey says, is not to figure out how it's going to happen for you, but to open the door in your head. And when the door is open in real life, just walk through it. Don't worry if you miss your cue. There will always be another door opening. They keep opening. What kind of door are you hoping will open for you in your life? And if you see it, what's holding you back from walking through? Here in this community of love and support, we can help each other to find the courage to make these choices for ourselves. We can offer each other the chance to try something new, to test our aptitude, to try our hand at leadership. We can volunteer for something we've never done before, knowing that even if we fail, we are held and loved and valued in this community. Perhaps we need to learn to look at the flaws in our own diamonds and with the trust to allow them to be transformed into something beautiful and new. The risk to grow starts with choosing love over fear, for then we can see the present with new eyes, and perhaps we can see our own potential with new eyes as well. And even more importantly, perhaps we can help somebody else discover their potential as well. This love, which is stronger than fear, is the key. Love that sees through the apparent poverty of the present to the reality, which is another thing entirely. A Sufi wisdom story puts it like this. Once there was a locksmith who was wrongly imprisoned. While there, he receives a gift. It is a gift of a prayer rug. What he wanted, of course, was a file or a crowbar or a key, but he got a rug. So he began to use the rug, doing the 5 times prayer at dawn, at noon, mid-afternoon, after sunset, and before going to sleep. Bowing, sitting up, bowing again. After many days of prayer, he notices an odd pattern in the weave of the rug at the point where his head touches. He studies and meditates on that pattern, gradually discovering that it is the diagram of a lock, a picture of the lock that confines him to his cell, and it shows how it works. Studying the diagram, he is able to escape. Anything you do every day can open into the deepest spiritual place, which is freedom. Once our spiritual practices develop, we will then find the freedom to grow, or as our Sufi did, the growth to find freedom. Growth is challenging at any point in our lives. To grow, we must choose to change. And that often means we must choose to give up what we already know, however painful that may be, and make space for the newness. Risk is exciting when we're young, and we simply want to experience this sheer sense of excitement that it engenders. Bungee jumping, car racing, playing poker, these are all activities designed to flirt with danger, to get our adrenaline pumping and make us feel alive, because it's good to feel alive. But the risks we need to take in order to grow are different. And danger seems much less appealing than it once did. For the risks we take now are risks to change what we know to be true and to make a different choice. In order to make a new beginning, we must be able to say goodbye to the old. And this is hard enough when the patterns are painful and it's clear we must change. But even harder is when we find that we must say goodbye to what we cling to. Phoebe Ang is the author of a book called Warrior Lessons, an Asian American woman's journey into power. In it, she writes, "The day becomes when remaining the same becomes more painful than the risk to grow. And when that happens, there are many goodbyes. We leave old patterns, old friends, old lovers, old ideas, and some cherished beliefs. Loss and growth," she says, "are so often one and the same." I wonder if perhaps we protect ourselves from loss when we decide to stop growing. Yet despite all our attempts to insulate ourselves, sometimes we do get to a point in our lives that we find we can no longer remain the same. I have people come into my office wrestling with decisions that they've made in the past, hoping to open up new pathways for the future. They say things like, I love my parents and my family of origin, but at some point I needed to say no to their patterns, the life I'm making for myself, and the belief system I live in now is so different from the way I was raised. There are times that we must say no to addiction, for instance. We must say no to violence in our lives, no to religion we no longer believe in. There are things that we must say no to in order to say yes to other more life-giving ways of being. Inatsu Nitobi was a professor in Tokyo in the early 20th century. He was a Japanese samurai warrior who chose peace over violence, and he became a Quaker. He said, I ask for daily bread, but not for wealth, lest I forget the poor. I ask for strength, but not for power, lest I despise the meek. I ask for wisdom, but not for learning, lest I scorn the simple. I ask for a clean name, but not for fame, lest I condemn the lowly. I ask for peace of mind, but not for idle hours, lest I fail to hearken to the call of service. My friends, it takes courage to say no to things that others claim are important. But our faith calls us to examine the world in which we live, this dysfunctional, dystopian, archaic, violent, and twisted world in which we live, and search for possibility. This new vision of what is possible begins with resistance to what we know is wrong. Victoria Safford says, from resistance to ill health, to bad practice, to oppression, from that sacred no, yes starts to take shape. You gather your principle, your rules for living, conviction. You decide what kind of person you intend to be, that you're called to be. And from that solid ground comes compassion, generosity, the strength to love. You decide what you do and do not want, what you need in your life. Responding to this kind of call happens again and again in our spiritual lives. And when we pay attention, perhaps it opens that door for a new way of being in the world. If we can respond to the sorrows of this world with compassion, generosity, and the strength to love, who knows what we could accomplish? And if we all do this, just imagine the possibilities of what we could do. Let's take that risk together. Amen, and blessed be.
This morning's offering will now be received, that we may better serve the mission of this church. Thank you, Chelsea and Rip. Please rise as you are willing and able, and speak together the words of our unison affirmation, found in your order of service. Love is the doctrine of this church, the quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another, to the end that all souls shall reap. Our closing hymn this morning is The Ceaseless Flow of Endless Time, number 350 in your gray hymnal, 350. We'll now extinguish the chalice and sing together the chalice extinguishing response.
The biggest risk we have to overcome our fear of showing up as ourselves. Here in this sacred community, may we challenge each other to choose love over fear by making that choice for ourselves. May you find the freedom to grow and the growth to find freedom. Amen.